Hey, good evening, everyone. This is Lowman02. We're going to finish off today's series with 4 games of 100 card singleton. First 3 games will be against Sugar Daddy, and the last game will be against Player Sassoon. And I can't really recall which all decks we ran in each of these. I think we ran our Rexer a couple times, as well as an Elves build, and I can't remember the last deck that was run. So the first 3 are going to be against Sugar Daddy's Prison, 5-color Prison deck that he's kind of testing out still. And then the last one will be against Sung on Jund Aristocrats. Okie doke. So the first match, I believe, is Elves. We're playing Elves against Prison. So decent keep here. My thinking is I got a Wirewood Herald that can transmute into another elf if he decides ever to kill it. Priest Titania, which gives me infinite mana, plus Sylvan Messenger, which can be any number of things off the top. I get very lucky to pull a Timberwatch Elf for our first draw as we were on the play. And it's a great card in this deck specifically. I mean, this deck can really either go like Elf Beatdown, or it can just go over the top because it's an Allure and Elf Ball deck. Allure, if you're not familiar with the card, is essentially like Omniscience in this deck, and if you can ever get a card like Cloudstone Curio, which is also in the deck into play, it can go infinite and draw every card in the deck with an elf draw creature, which means you'll win, essentially, with a Concordant Crossroads plus I can't remember the blue-green elf that puts a land off the top into play, but with that plus Crater Hoof, you'll win, and Concordant Crossroads. So we have infinite mana. If he can find it, it's basically Wrath or Bust for him, I think, at this point, especially with the Timberwatch in play. Luck into our Natural Order, which is great, because that means we're going to get a Reclamation Sage at some point and win the game. If I'm not mistaken, this looks like it may have broken, unfortunately. Yeah, I think this game is unfortunately broken, folks. Yeah, it has. So, sorry, this game unfortunately broke. After the point in time I was kind of explaining our line of play in the middle of turn 5, um, I don't think it ever passed back to our turn 6. He conceded after his draw step on his turn 5. What ended up happening is we sack one of our our creatures that had just come into play this turn. I believe it was like the Elvish Visionary. With the remainder of our mana, natural ordering for Reclamation Sage, destroying the moat, and then attacking him down to about 3 life off a Timberwatch activation. And that ended the game. So apologies, this replay has been broken. Alright, game 2. And hopefully this one's not broke as well, folks. We'll see. Okay, yep, this was the hand. We end up playing out Finhorde Elves turn 1. Not a very mana-heavy hand, but we know we can Sylvan Scrying into our Gaia's Cradle, which by turn 3 is going to make us a boatload of mana. With a Garruk in hand, this is a very high power level hand, because it allows us to tap and untap Gaia's Cradle for multiple activations. Concordant Crossroads is not a bad one to see. It does combo out pretty nicely what we're doing. We're not going to play it out the first time, or the first turn that we can, though, with Gaia's Cradle, because it's a little dangerous as well when you're not ready to use it. We see a Gideon, which is cool. It's in prison, I guess. But, I mean, it presents a sizable threat, and we're really not presenting one right now. I just think we're faster than Gideon is, you know. Coiling Oracle, pulling the Sylvan Messenger yet again. We see a Shrink getting an Aether Vial. Another Force, which is a good draw for us. We need to keep hitting lands at this point. You know, we get Imperious Perfect into play, which is going to help us grow this little, you know, tiny team up quite well. A whole host of other cards. You know, I believe what you'll see is we end up attacking in to threaten his Gideon, force him to trade a little bit, give us additional cards. We get a Fierce Empath with the Wirewood Herald. Oh, correction. No, we don't. We get the Zuri. This actually wins faster because of you know the Gaia's Cradle plus the elves we have in hand. Consideration there. I think we did count it out. We're like 1 mana short. We end up just randomly drawing the Fierce Empath. You know, oddly enough, I think we end up just opting to go for it this turn. Yeah, so this replay is oddly busted as well. I guess it's just the level of tutoring or the level of manipulation we were doing over the deck. I don't know. But for some reason, this game's busted or bugged. What ended up happening there, you know, and looking at it, I had it the turn prior to. Yeah, so actually this game ended not on the turn that we just passed. I believe it ended on our turn 5. or correction, turn 4. This ended on our turn 4. So what happens on our turn 4 is we don't go for the Azuri, we go for the Fierce Empath. I was kind of weirded out by why we had that come into our hand off of our search effect from the Dying Wirewood Herald. We get the Fierce Empath, have 6 mana still floating off of Gaia's Cradle with the untap to bring it up to 6, down to 4, plus 7, 11 mana, casting the Elvish Harbinger down to 8, so 3 off 11, 8 mana remaining, and at that point holding off of the Fierce Empath, the Craterhoof Behemoth, cast Craterhoof Behemoth for lethal. So that was how that game ended up playing out, and apologies for the game being busted. And it's funny because, I never really see elves in 100 card single. I just haven't seen it. I'm sure someone's played it before. It's just not a deck I've seen a lot of, and I think it's a good deck. I think you need to be unfair with it. I think it needs to be a combo kill deck, but I just don't see it a lot. I think it's a fairly good deck. So I forgot we played this deck. So we end up kind of trolling Sugar Daddy a little bit. We know he's on this prison deck, so we end up pulling in his Reanimator deck. We have this built. We've been working with him a little bit, and manipulating the deck. And we definitely are not the builders of this thing or the architects whatsoever. He is. But we've manipulated some cards around in it with him, helped build some sideboard hate and tech against the matchups he's bad at. I believe here, yeah, we Winds of Change the first time to our hands. It's not that great. It's all mana. It's no gas. We end up finding, the Academy Rector plus the Thespian's stage, so we have half of one combo. End up seeing that we have the Necromancy. We just need to get to a pertinent critter. I believe we play out the Academy Rector here. And we're really looking for a way to get this thing put in the graveyard. It obviously keeps him from being able to attack. And we draw Collective Brutality, which is, it's generally pretty good when you have a Academy Rector in play. We attack in with it to get our, 1 damage. End up, targeting our own Academy Rector at this point. I don't know if he runs Swords to Plowshares or like Path to Exile like that, but we're willing to bank. He miscalcs it. Okay, I guess maybe he wants to tap us out so we can Winter Orb or something. But like Winter Orb is really not good against Omniscience, which is, if you're not familiar with this deck does ridiculous stuff. And here you see Omniscience do what it does, and when I have a way of seeing 4 cards, or correction, 3 plus 1, seeing 6 cards a turn, not keeping all of them, but seeing that many, I'm probably going to find one of the ridiculous creatures, and you see all it takes is me finding my top card is Time of Need, Emrakul, Time Walk, Attack, Win. Yeah, this deck is silly. When it works pretty big time. Now, I will say it is fairly narrow. If an opponent comes prepared for it, and really if they just present a sizable amount of denial to any other strategy, counter magic really, permission, they're going to beat it. And he has a decent bit of that, actually. So I think this is actually a good game. And sure, I hope you can appreciate it. So if you watch this game, so we have the Gorios, we have the Shallow Grave. We're looking for a way to get the Crystal Brand into the graveyard. That's kind of the name of our game right now. So we have a crop rotation. We play out the Wooded Foothills. We could crop rotation here to get Bizarre Baghdad. We do not, because we think we're going to need the Wooded Foothills. We don't think we're going to try to go for the Dark Depths combo. So Dark Depths is a brick. It is, unless I have an Urborg in play, it does less than nothing for me. And I'm never going to chip the ice off that thing. So, we see a Thalia come into play. We see an Aether Vial. Aether Vial, I don't get Shug. I don't know why it's in the deck. There's not enough creatures there. We cultivate in response to Thalia. Maybe you've made more creatures in there. I don't know. C2 Moxen, dump the Nahiri, the Mox, Diamond, and the Gristlebrand in the graveyard. We're pretty down on land, so we don't think the Diamond's going to be necessary, but we keep the Chrome Mox. Go up to 2 mana. So he has kind of disrupted our ability to cast one of the 2. So what we intend on doing, let me pause real quick. What we intend on doing is this. We have 2 of these effects. I know he runs counter magic, and I kind of consider his deck like an Esper Pie deck, even though it's 5 color. I think it most heavily relies on those colors to have the effects that it has. So here's what I'm looking to do. Like, I want to cast one of these two on his end step because both of these exile at the beginning of the next end step. This is going to force him to tap any untapped mana he has on his turn to deny me that ability so that I'm capable of doing it on the following turn where I want to attack. Um, so essentially, I'm using the flip of the turn as a means by which to deny him mana availability. Um, and as you'll see, it really plays out well for us here. We actually talk about, I mean, we don't talk about this specific manner of accruing it, but like we talk about this a little bit in our very lengthy diatribe about, the mutability of value and tempo. Excuse me, folks. No, yeah, Valley of Beasts get in. I can't remember if we Caracas this or not. I think we don't. I think we leave it. I think we leave it because we want to be able to protect what we're doing. Now, it kind of stinks. We're going to give him cards, but hey, whatever. I think he ends up getting Force Will. There he has it. Who knows? It's hard telling. Yeah, we get Force of Will there. He goes up. That's 3 cards or 4. I always forget on land or standstill. I call it land still. Yeah, 3. He's only up, 1 card then. Actually, he's down. He's even on cards because land still cost a card in the beginning, anyways. So as you see, our play ends up paying off. We end up, destroying, or correction, getting the Force of Will out of his hand after he's tapped out for the standstill. And then the following turn, banging in there with the Gristlebrand. We kind of hedge bet when we start doing these discards, and we end up doing with our Bizarre. We do Caracas Techie, but we Caracas back our Gristlebrand, and then discard it with Bizarre, and then reanimate it again because we don't want it to be exiled at the end step. And we also leave a Show and Tell and Jin in hand so that if for some reason he gets like a card like, I can't think of it, like Rest in Peace, we can Show and Tell Jin Gataxi's into play and just draw a boat of cards and then force him to deal with it the following turn and hopefully figure out a way to deal with his rip. He plays out an Ophiomancer, man, cool dude. I don't, I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I don't know what we're going to do with that. Like, this doesn't do anything against a Gristlebrand. We bang in there. I don't think we draw here. I think we just end up playing on our show to force him to counter. He does, which is awesome because, like, and sure, this is one of the challenging things. I don't think if you're playing a Winter Orb deck, I don't think you want to play as many counter spells as you do because Winter Orb does not favor the use of counter magic because really, what it does is what counter spells allow you to do is it gives you mutability in when you decide to accrue tempo. So when you're, and generally that's a great thing because you can utilize there's essentially virtual time gain in the flexibility of being able to cast your spells on the opponent's turn, specifically to have denial effects on their turn. And then, because you're the control, I guess, when you're casting them or if you're using them in the way you're using them right now, you have assumed the role of control. You are able on your turn to untap, and because they are completely tapped, resolve your more relevant threat. And it's kind of nonsense to say that. I mean, that's what control does, but when you play Winter Orb and use cards like Condescend, like I don't think it works. I don't think it's where you want to be. And I tend to be fine with Winter Orb when I have a 6/7 flying lifelink that allows me to draw cards, whenever I want, banging in there because it's just Winter Orb doesn't beat that kind of thing. So, okay, next game. And what do we have, Moto? Well, folks, looks like I may have broke. Nope. All right, sweet. Oh, did we already play our game 1? Yeah, we already played our game 1. I apologize, folks. That's it for the second match we had against Shug. And then, let's see what we have here. We have a 3-game set. So, yeah, I remember this now. We are actually playing Sung's deck, the one that she just used to take down the Christmas extravaganza. So, she had her deck list up, and we were talking a bit about control and really some of the stuff that was kind of the font for my longer posting on Tempo Theory. um, as it relates to this deck specifically. And we're in agreement in a lot of like kind of ideas or theories about how this game works. You know, it's essentially, for lack of better terms, economy. You know, and I think she had a pretty good deck list. I mean, there's a few things that I would probably do a little bit different, but great deck list. And really, the reason I have it built is because I am the worst at looking at a deck list and understanding it. I have to see it laid out on a curve, generally visually, for me to be able to process it. So I downloaded the text version and put it into MTGO so I could kind of look at it and see it. That helps me just get a more visceral understanding. And I didn't know what to play Shug with. I was like, I'll play you with her deck. I haven't played this deck before. Um, yeah, this was only keepable because of the anticipate, in my opinion. I'm looking for land drops right now, guys. I find it. Dump some good stuff to the bottom, but I just need land. Got an absorb. Fine. This is a very, very counter magic heavy deck. It's a very permission based deck. It's not a bad thing per se, but it's just, I was kind of lamenting it too because I was looking to get somewhere right after this match with Shug, and it just this game took forever. I see a Gideon. Yeah, it's gonna eat and absorb, man. So really, what you're looking to use your counter magic for in a deck like this is, especially when you're on like a wrath hand, is anything that is not a creature. We don't really have a huge problem. That was a weird split. That was probably not the right split, Shug. Batterskull is not that relevant here. Well, rather to say, it's not. It's probably the best card in that pile of cards, but it's certainly not better than 4 cards. Batterskull and a land. Batterskull and the Plains may have been the split. I don't know. It's close. Tabernacle and then play 2 creatures. I don't know, man. I don't know. We wrath it regardless because True Name is just gonna just beat up on us. And we have our own True Name as well, which is it's fine. I don't really think it fits in this deck. I don't know. It's just it's fine though. I mean, it can block forever. Obviously, it just doesn't beat trample, but I mean, it'll block for a hot minute, which is cool. And actually, it does that here. It just sits around and like, hey, do you want to throw your Ophiomancer in? Do you want to throw your Bloodghast in? Do you have a land drop next turn? Then you can, I guess, throw your your Snake, your Ophio, and your Ghast at me. We draw Jace, which is just another beating, so we just plus it. And really, I don't know why he doesn't do this play, but I think he needs to save. There's a turn, and like the reason I plus it here is because if I minus it, he can actually kill it with the Snake and the Bloodghast at the loss of his Ophiomancer, which I think is probably worth it, but I don't know his holdings at this point because Jace is just going to draw us a bunch of cards. We're up on lands. It's going to draw us a whole host of cards. This is an odd split too. We easily take Impulse and Mental Misstep because right now with the Helm of Obedience in our hand, we're just kind of looking for a way to win. Helm is what we would typically do that with, but we do need the Rip, the Rest in Peace, to do that. So we take the Impulse and the Mental Misstep. Yeah, both singularly they're worse than Cryptic Command, but I don't need Cryptic Command right now. Not over two cards. We see a Supreme Verdict. I believe here we Impulse. We don't intend on. I mean, obviously we can't counter this, but a Brainstorm, which is actually not bad because we have a fetch land in play. We do it here. So we do it here, and then fetch before the end of turn. Find a Gideon, which it's not a way that we can use our Helm of Obedience for value, but hey, it's going to win us the game. We take the 2 pile, even though I think at this point we're going to have to discard. We can't cast all of it. Keep in mind we have just a whole boat of counter magic. Like it's counter magic city in our hand. We can stop a lot of different things. A lot of them are situational, but I mean, some of them are good. The good sort of situational. Like I mean, I love Spell Snare. I really do love me Spell Snare. That card just does some work. I mean, and it's not only just essentially your turn one's worth of mana against or on the draw against like an aggressive deck, like stopping a Tarmogoyf. Like it gets a lot of different stuff that you wouldn't expect. Like in the control on control matchup, it gets a lot of counter magic. It still gets like Goyfs, obviously, Scavenging Ooze type stuff, but I mean, like, it just gets a lot of decent cards. 2 is not a bad spot. Okay, yeah. So we're beaten up with a Vendilion Click and a Gideon here, and we just don't feel like we can lose. He's just gonna take us forever to win in a day. And I think yeah, it's game. Okay, he packs it in, which is right. That game is over. So this next game is hilarious because we get a terrible draw, and we say, hey, let's see what this deck can do. I kind of want to see if this thing can win. We do draw a first turn white source. Obviously, like the needed draw is like one more of them, and not to get wasteland. Should have done a pretty powerful draw though, and he ends up just beating the crap out of us. Actually, it was funny. I was talking to Sung this time. I told her I was running her deck, and I said, "Hey, listen to this hand I just kept. I'm gonna get wailed upon." And she kind of laughed. And we do. We see a Dust Bowl and a Braids Cabal. We're just like, "Yep, that's gonna be it." And I believe well, what he should have done is activated the Dust Bowl. Maybe not. I think you hit one of my lands with the Dust Bowl in response to the Braids trigger, and then just sack another land. It's like I think I do that. Maybe sack the Wasteland, but just take me off all mana. I guess maybe it's not necessary. Nah, yeah, I think I would have done that because you're gonna you're gonna hit me fast enough here. You're gonna get me, and you do. Yeah, I'm dead. I'm deader than dead. That deck needs its land. That was a bad keep though. I knew it going in. That was just a horrendous keep. Next one we get a much better keep. You need to have your lands in this deck. This deck is a land deck. I think it runs 38 or 37. 38. A lot of basics, a lot of non comes into play tap lands. And I say that as I'm holding a prairie stream, but which is frankly it's fine that it comes to play tap here. We don't need it this turn. Yep, Drago. I don't think we use Vendilion Click here. I could be wrong. Yeah, no, we don't. We may use it end step. Yeah, I think we do. He doesn't present another threat, and we say, hey, we didn't know if we had to or not, so we present it on the end step because really we're interested in resolving our spells on our turn, or knowing if we should resolve our spells on our turn. Not per se to deny him, a tempo on his turn. I don't really care if he casts something on his turn. I just want to know that I'm going to be able to do what I need to do on the turn I need to. And I find out, that I can't. I need the Force Spike to stop whatever he's doing because I believe I get rid of it days. Now, I knew we had this factor friction, so I kind of architected this play right here to set up the Force Spike having value at a point in which we have 4 lands on the board, or we have 5 and he has 4. Plus, I don't have a threat, so maybe I can just go with V-Click beats. I find out it's pretty funny. He's on the same win count we are. I see a Helm of Obedience come down. I can't tolerate that. It's got to go away because, while he may not have the combo in hand right now, if he finds it, or if he does randomly just have it, which I guess he kind of did because he's got this Academy Rector, then I'm going to lose. In this game, I believe ends just due to Vendilion Click beats. I think we just beat him to death with a 3-1. We take the 2 pile. I'm not mistaken, yeah. Forcible's a great card. I don't really need it right here, though. Plus, we know that the play that he wants to make is that Academy Rector, because likely he has some sort of removal in hand that he's not using to deal with the Vendilion Click, our way of sacrificing it. And we know we can get it with Ochidai's Command. So we're waiting for him to tap out for it again. Yep, he is ever faithful. And we cast the Ochidai's Command, drawing a card and getting rid of that creature, and have a Muddle the Mixture in hand, which is a transmutable effect that would allow us to get the half we were looking for a game ago, the rip, to support the Helm of Obedience. What do we see here? Yeah, Time Spiral. I just cast my Muddle the Mixture on it, and that's game because we got a 3-1 that just went the whole distance over the course of the game. That's kind of how this deck just randomly wins. Either randomly wins through a combo or sets up the combo, wins through Planeswalker value, or has a couple creatures that can do damage, and maybe eventually gets there with them. We were just able to control this game enough that that the Vendilion Click just got there on him. Okay, so the last match we'll show is me facing off on Sung, who is on a 3 or 4. I believe it's Jund. It may have Jund with a slight splash. I think it's just Jund Aristocrats. versus our Junk Rexer build. So this first game we end up taking, I think it's a pretty standard fair game for our deck. We have the Death Right. We do not play this game well, folks. I'll tell you that right now. I just remember this game. I remember like I think working on writing something at the time, and also um, had my daughter over, and it was kind of a busy time. So this game was not as well played as it probably could have been. Yeah, so we get Cooling's Commanded, but we've landed a Bitter Blossom, which I think is very strong. I think it's a strong card in general. And, you know, with the Gavany Township plus a Court of Calling in hand, like, this thing is going to wreck shop. That's kind of my line of thinking. Is like, well, they do have green in Jund. Like, it's not an easier enchantment to deal, or it's not an easier permanent type to deal with. Whereas I expect their ability to destroy creatures and artifacts is probably really high. Gavany Township comes down. Do we attack in? Yeah, we do. Might as well. It's 3/3. We do cast the Eternal Witness, getting back, I believe, the Court of Calling, which is discarded with Thoughtseize by Sun. This first game I think is fine. I think we played okay. It's not poorly played. Cole gets command again, getting another card, I believe the Revelark, and then a Grim Haruspex. So at this point, we think that she's probably on some sort of. We don't know at this point that she's on Aristocrats, but we see Grim Haruspex. It's a Aristocrats card. Oh wait, there's like really not another deck that wants it. I guess you could play it as a value card like Rock or something like that, but like it's an Aristocrats card, you know, especially on the Jund color pie. We get the Gaia's Cradle, which is also pretty synergistic with Bitter Blossom. Here, I think, how much life are we at? 16? Yeah, we cast out the Prime Time. That's what I figured. And I think we also Shriek Maw, one of his cards as well, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. We get rid of that. Thanks, we don't draw more cards. We bang in with our flyers because we don't really want to give him more cards and give him more opportunities to get out of the lock we're kind of putting him under right now, or this the slow, grindy, um, you know, the grindy mid-range game we're kind of playing right now because we're not playing anything unfair. We got Manlands. We didn't even get our Dark Depths package because I mean, honestly, I don't think Dark Depths. I think Dark Depths is slower than the beats we're putting out. But she has a pretty powerful turn, and she manages to fulminate our Gavany Township and also deal with our Primeval Titan in the same turn, which is pretty powerful. We Demonic Intent, Karmic Guide, that's game. I think here we may get the DD combo, but I don't recall. Maybe another Manland set. Yeah, I think it was Manlands actually, which makes decent sense. No, so it was an Urbarg and Orboro, or correction, Urbog. And the reason being is actually what we wanted to get. I didn't realize, it was kind of funny because I was really distracted. I didn't realize how little black mana we had when we actually cast Diabolic Intent. In my mind at the time, because I was kind of really distracted, I was thinking, all right, demonic intent or diabolic intent and living death game, and it obviously wasn't a viable place. We only had the one black mana. So we ended up getting that Karma Guide. I guess the deck loves us, or we built decently well, or whatever. But we managed to take this first one, even though I don't think our mind was in the game at the time. The second one, there's a litany of misplays. I'll try to account for them all verbally as we play through. Eh, eh. Fair to middling keep. You want one more land in this hand, is what you want. I think at the expense of, I mean, realistically, Scavenging Ooze, but like knowing the matchup, Scavenging Ooze necessary. Probably the Thragtusk for a land would be the best draw. All right, so T-Goy, Kitchen Thing, she's off to a very mid-rangey start. We are as well, though. We have the voice. We can't hit another land. And you'll find that that ends up being, really we're choked on mana this game. That's what ends up killing us. But we do have a couple misplays as well. I think our next draw may be Deathrite, if I'm not mistaken. Like another form of investment mana that no, it's not even. Like I said, we're hurting right now. Like if we hit a land, we're going to 4 lands off of the Wood Elves. We just can't do it, though. And yeah, that really locks the game up. But we know for a fact now that we flipped our Howler or our Duskwatch Recruiter into Howler, but we'll be able to cast the Wood Elves next turn. And we see this, and we're just like, oh man. So really, We end up casting the Court of Calling to get the Death Right. That's why I mixed up, because I remember that card came into play on this set of turns. Um, Obviously, we drew Sidisi. We see a Bloodbraid into a Sylvan. At least Sylvan's not going to doesn't present a threat at least. Because I have a feeling at this point we're going to get beaten to death pretty handily. This is a very fast beating. We just take it like champs. Play on it comes into play, tap land. Oof. You got to love them. And here, cast out the Scavenging Ooze. I don't feel good at this point. I feel like if she can remove my Elemental, which with a Sylvan Library on Jund is probably going to happen, then I'm going to be in trouble. We see a Cabal Therapy, and she's going to hit every time with that thing because she's already seen her hand, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, let me double check. Yeah, she's Thoughtseize this, so I mean, eh. And yeah, we don't have favorable blocks here. What we should have done though is yeah, let's see. We lose the Theriatas. I think you know what it was is the turn we played out the Bajuka Bog, we failed to exile the Windswept Teeth for mana and use that mana to cast the Enlightened Tutor on the step prior, which would have given us Recurring Nightmare on this turn to sacrifice the Deathrite Shaman for the Thrag Tusk, and leaving up actually Scavenging Ooze activation. But as the game stands, we're dead because we can activate Deathrite. Well, correction, no, we can't activate Deathrite to gain life. We can activate it to gain life up to 5, or we can activate to put a +1/+1 counter on Scavenging Ooze and go up to 4. However, with whatever this card is, Perforos, God of Rage, this fear creature right here, Shriek Maw, is capable of becoming a 5. What is it? Essentially a 5/2, which requires blocking from the Deathrite itself. Actually, maybe we conceded this prematurely. I guess we could have Restoration Angel, the Dustwatch, or the Deathrite Shaman, after it jumped in front of the Shriekmaw. But I just, are we getting there on that? So we do 3 this turn, down to 11. Assuming she gets nothing off of the Sylvan Library, like absolutely blanks, we block the Shriekmaw, flicker the Deathrite Shaman with the Restoration Angel. On the following turn, so she's down 3, we can't pump the Scavenging Ooze in that case, and we can't gain a life that turn. On the following turn, we strike in for 3/3. Let's say 4/3. So we pump Scavenging Ooze to 4/3. She's already down 3 to 11, minus, let's say 7, down to 4, and we can tag her for 2 off of the Deathrite. That still puts us probably in lethal. So, sorry, I just wanted to think through this game because I think, and I don't know if it was a shame. I wouldn't call it a shame conceit. I'm not really a shameful person when it comes to this game. Like, there's times I play bad just like anyone else because I'm distracted. But I conceded this one because I figured I knew because of that misplay with the timing of the Enlightened Tutor. I missed an opportunity to get a Recurring Nightmare. So what I wanted to do is think through how the cycle of turns could have played out. She's on 0 cards now, but with an active library, we're probably not favored. But realistically, if we had gone for that line, we probably could have won. And in the line I'm going through right now is just playing this game out, and I see it very realistic that we could have her down to 4 by the end of 2 turns from now, which means that if on her next turn she happens to take an extra card off Sylvan Library, we could kill her. So it's interesting. I don't know. Maybe we should have played this one out. But it would also involve her drawing virtual nothing, like no removal, no relevant threat. Okay, so This is a funny hand. So this deck plays a lot of lands. I think we do get a little unlucky in the lands that we draw. We don't run a lot of basics. We run 4 basics in the deck: 2 forest, swamp, and plains. The deck is very needy on green mana, and as you'll find throughout this game, we are very choked on it. We lose the Diabolic Intent, which has really brought this hand together. And Court of Calling just doesn't do it here because we need either another green creature or a forest land of some sort, non-basic forest. We find 2 to cast it. We lose our forest due to Fulminator Mage, which is really our death knell. We do get lucky and hit a Canopy Vista, which we're bummed about because if we hit it a little while ago, it would have been much better. And as you see, like Zooport, Cutthroat, and Team just go to work on us. Yeah, I don't think it may have been another distracted play. Shriek Motion have been played there. Maybe it had to be. I don't know. She does kill it, so I guess she thought it was good enough too. I don't know. Maybe she wondered why I valued it. Maybe she was trumping up my play. I don't know. I don't know because I think Sung thinks I'm a decent player as well. I mean, so I think there's some mutual respect there. She may have dismembered it just because it was in the way. I think likely she maybe dismembered it because I valued it enough to kill my own Elves of Deep Shadow. Sung, I really didn't. It was just like, shoddy play. It was distracted and shoddy play. I just played it down because I was like, oh, present a threat. I don't have one. Um, when you're worldly tutoring for Siege Rhino and a Primeval Titan and Sun Titan deck, you're losing the game. Yeah, we do. We get battered horrendously, and that would be a game. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed the matches. Sorry for the shoddier play in this last round here against Sung, but I mean, I'm not above putting something out there that I know wasn't well played by myself. Really, to hallmark the better plays that were in it or the lines that could have been taken, and also really in this last matchup to kind of hallmark a really cool deck. I think her deck is very cool. I believe I played Sensei Rob last night um, on attempting to build something similar nature to this. Because I really thought the deck was pretty cool, and like honestly, I didn't take Sung's deck. I ended up trying to build something similar, something that was based around the Aristocrats idea. Really, it was more the concept that I took because I think the deck is awesome too. And like I love the Cryptolith Rites decks. I think they're cool. I haven't seen it, and I was like, hey, that's pretty cool, and I haven't seen it done. I'm sure someone has done it, but let's give it a shot. And really sweet deck, and I just want to throw it up there because I think the deck itself is very cool, and I hope she continues to work on developing it and wins. But this last game here, I almost say we played optimally, but we also had a decently high variance draw and not getting the green mana that we required in it. Then again, I mean, it was a hand that we kept that did not produce on its own a lot of green mana. I don't think per se we're unfavored to draw it though in this deck because I think this is a 40 or 41 mana source deck. So it runs a good amount of land. I mean, essentially the mana base is based around kind of like a lands based or a land win con based strategy with the Dark Depths combo in the main land package. So a little unfortunate in that regard, but I mean, I'm not going to say that's what lost us this match. I mean, it was solid play by her, and then a couple of shoddy plays this third game and the second game. First game we played okay, but we definitely we're on our A game because we're working on an article or working on writing something, playing with our kid, and then what are you going to do? So hope you guys enjoyed the matches. Hope they bring value to you. And if you think this form of Magic is something you'd be interested in, please contact me if you like over my YouTube channel and or MTG Salvation. So this is a format that's played competitively every weekend, 3:30 or 15:30 Eastern Standard Time in the continental United States. It is called the Chainsaw Massacre. Say again, the Chainsaw Massacre. We don't have a very large community right now. I think we're a burgeoning community of 10 to 12 on a regular basis. I think I've seen it expand as far as like 15 to 20. But if this is something that would interest you, it's essentially Commander without the Commander, and I say that with all caveats. It's not Commander, folks. Not even remotely. But it is a 100-card singleton, format. So in a lot of ways, it is similar in that regard to Commander, but it's not because you're not galvanized around one card you can always cast when you have the mana to do so. But I'd recommend it because I think it's one of those formats, one of those rare formats that is very developmental. Yeah, I think it's very developmental for players. And the reason I say that is because it requires a vast it requires a decent knowledge set of the wide array of Magic cards that have ever been printed because it is a vintage format, and you know, and that in and of itself is a challenge. But what it does is I think it increases your capability to evaluate and understand the economy of the game in a lot of ways because you get to look over all of time and all of the Magic cards that have ever been printed and make determinations on what it is that makes those cards that are worth inclusion in a format that is as wide open as this into any given deck. Why we do that and when and how you do it. And also because of developing that evaluation skill set and seeing empirically what works in a format that has a range as wide as 100 card does, developing also a very strong constructed skill set and evaluation and formats from draft to let's say legacy or vintage. But I think when you get out of a four of you know format, you tend to get that because you have a lot of you have to assess the capability of a lot of different cards to accrue redundant effects over time and or get to very specific events because there are some cards that only there are certain effects that only certain cards do, um, and some of those are even not even in the format. But I think it is very skill intensive, and I think it is also very fun because you tend to have a higher variance of of gameplay out of the decks you run. Now you may have some that acquire the same end state, but the pathway to getting there it tends to always vary, which I think is great. I think it's awesome to have to do that. I think it just involves a lot of high level thought and a very fun game. Okay, well, that said, if you are interested in participating in the Chainsaw Massacre, it is up on gatherling.com. I say again, gatherling.com. It is hosted by ML Berlin. And if you're more interested, go ahead and feel free to read into the linked 100 card singleton every Saturday link in MTG Salvation and read some of the diatribe that our community has going on. Okay, I appreciate it and have a great night.